Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth's original name was Isabella Baumfree. She was born into slavery in 1797 as an African American woman in Dutch-speaking Ulster County in New York. Later in her life, she would change her name to Sojourner Truth after devoting her life to Methodism, telling her friends, "The Spirit calls me, and I must go." Her most known accomplishment was her "Ain't I Woman" speech. Being a slave, she lived an extremely difficult life subject to things such as hard physical labor along with a rough physical abuse.
Throughout her slave life, she was bought and sold a total of 4 times. In 1815, at the age of 18, Sojourner Truth met another slave named Robert who resided in a neighboring farm. They fell in love and had 2 children together, a girl named Diana and a boy named James. The relationship between Sojourner and Robert would be strong. However, Robert's owner, John Dumont, forbade their relationship and made it so any child they bore would immediately become his own property. After this tragedy, they would never see each other again. Dumont would later force Truth to marry one of his older slaves named Thomas, only a couple years after her relationship with Robert. Truth and her new man then married and would have 3 kids, their eldest a boy named Peter, and 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Sophia. After going through years of harsh work and poor treatment, Truth would run away with her daughter Diana to a nearby abolitionist family, the Van Wagoners, in 1827, a year before New York's law freeing slaves would be taking place. This family would provide the biggest change to her life, buying her freedom for $20. So at the age of 30, Truth found her first seconds with freedom. The Wagoner family even helped Truth get her now 5-year-old son back, who was illegally sold into slavery in Alabama. The process was a tough one, but Truth took the issue to court and secured the bag, getting Peter to return from the South. This was the very first case in which a black woman challenged a white man in the United States court and won, allowing her to sue him.
The early years of freedom for Truth were not as prosperous as she would have hoped. Merging to Christianity at this time, she and her son Peter moved to New York, which offered them more freedom and a less discriminatory northern attitude. She began working as a housekeeper, but later moved to the home of Robert Matthews. Not the same Robert as the one she previously had kids with, though. In 1835, Truth was brought into a case that went against her employer, a slander suit. Just another instance that brought Truth further into the political and legal realm. On June 1st, 1843, Isabella Baumfree would finally change her name to Sojourner Truth when deciding to become a full-time advocate for the abolition of slavery. Joining the Northampton Association of Education and Industry in Northampton, Massachusetts, an organization founded by abolitionists supporting a broad range of reform goals, much like Truth. At the association, she would meet up with the brothers Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison. Although the association would disband around 1846, it paved the way for Sojourner Truth's path into activism, more specifically, the reform towards women's rights. In 1850, Truth spoke at the first National Women's Rights Convention in Worcester, Massachusetts. She really began to delve into women's rights more and more. A year later, she delivered her famous "Ain't I a Woman" speech at the 1851 Ohio Women's Rights Convention, motivated through her religious devotion and her past experiences as a black woman. The speech described how the status quo is that a woman needs to be protected. However, all of this special treatment that is supposed to be done for a woman was never done for her. She was an African American woman, meaning she experienced twice the discrimination and twice the work. She makes the point that she is a woman, but she is capable of all what a man can do and even more, from what she's already went through in her life.
As she said, "That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches, and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me, look at my arm. I've plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could heat me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I've borne many children and seen most all off to slavery, and when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman?" She speaks of herself and the experiences that she had been through, consistently saying, "Ain't I a woman?" as she has not been treated as one. Not only that, but was doing work that would be difficult for not just women, but men as well. Seeing the injustice of the situation regarding women, Truth sought a reform where women carried a not-so-fragile stigma with them everywhere they go. Holding the capabilities like any other man, women could empower the world.
Sojourner Truth's legacy ended on November 26, 1883, close to her family, buried at her home in Battle Creek, Michigan.